we're going to give it. Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Lydia Gregory. We're going to give it just another minute here until people get in. I'm the managing editor for Recommend Magazine, and we're going to be talking about luxury travel trends. So as you come into the room, if you could put in your name and where you're from in the chat room, I could start saying hi to you guys. I'm really looking forward to chatting about what's going on in this really, really lucrative segment of the travel world. Oh, here we go. We have Lisa from the Jersey Shore. We have Sherry from Boston, Jane from Houston, Kendall from New Jersey, Kim from Toledo, Ohio, I'm assuming. Neil from Cincinnati. We have Pittsburgh, Wisconsin. We have Portsmouth. We have New York, Jacksonville, Florida, Brenda in North Carolina. Welcome, everybody. Diane from Florida, Ginger in SoCal, Lori from New York. Bunch of people from New York here. We have Lori and Corey from New York. Hello, both of you. Quincy from Montana. Awesome. This is great. Well, the room is filling up quickly here. We have Brooklyn. We have Linda in Turkey. Wow, brilliant. Welcome, Linda from Turkey. So I am going to reintroduce myself for the people who are just starting to trickle in here. My name is Lydia Gregory, and on behalf of Recommend, I want to welcome everybody to today's webinar, Luxury Travel Trends That Sell and What's Driving Demand Today. So before we dive in, I'm going to have a couple of quick housekeeping notes here. You can download today's luxury travel trends in the chat. There will be a link there if it's not there already. Today's session is being recorded, so if you have a colleague that couldn't make it, we'll be sending out a link for the replay. Also, we will have a Q&A at the end, so if any questions come up as we go, please drop them in the Q&A panel, and we'll get to them towards the end. We'll get to as many as we can there. So just know that your audio is muted on our end, which is totally normal, but the Q&A panel and the chat are both live. So please feel free to use that throughout and just be dropping your questions in there. So today's conversation is built around data from Recommend's latest luxury travel survey. We have real numbers from real advisors about what's actually happening in the luxury market right now. And we're going to break down in those findings, hear from a great panel of advisors who are living these trends every day. You can see them up on the screen right now. And you will walk away with strategies that you can put into practice immediately. So before we take a look at what's on the agenda, I want to take a moment to introduce our incredible panelists who are joining us. So I'm so excited to have these voices in the room, as each one of them brings in a perspective that's going to make this conversation so much richer. So to start with, our first panelist, we have Diana Heckler. She's president of Detours Travel, a boutique agency in Larchmont, New York, specializing in luxury custom travel. Now, Diana has been crafting once-in-a-lifetime experiences for clients all over the world since 1999, and she's also an award-winning author. Her book on perfect moments in travel earned a Magellan Award for Innovation. We're so glad to have you with us today, Diana. Hello.
Thank you very much, Lydia. I'm delighted to be here. I love to talk about travel. I would talk about travel even if I didn't make my living from it, but it's nice I do both of those things. So I'm delighted to be here.
Wonderful, thank you. And joining us as well is Melanie Pink, founder of Melanie Pink Travel, based in Atlanta, Georgia. Melanie is a Condé Nast Traveler top travel specialist and a Centum Fora Travel top 100 producer 2 years running. With a background on Wall Street, she brings a strategic, detail-oriented approach to luxury travel, specializing in personalized family travel, five-star hotels, and experiential journeys around the world. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And last but absolutely not least, we have Christine Hardenberger, founder of Modern Travel Professionals. Christine is deeply embedded in the luxury travel advisor community, and she brings a unique perspective on how advisors are building and growing their luxury practices today. So glad to have you here, Christine.
Thanks so much for having me. Like Diana, I just love to talk travel, so all the time.
Wonderful. Well, good. You're in the right place then. Well, this is an incredible group, and I can't wait for you all to hear about what these three have to say throughout today's session. So let's take a quick peek at what we're covering today. So today's session is built around four segments. Each one is backed by data from our survey, and each one ends with a real conversation with our panelists. So you're getting the numbers and the field perspective in every section. So the first is experience-driven luxury. More than half of advisors are telling us that their clients are leading with the experience now, not the hotel, not the destination, but the moment. So we're going to dig into what that actually looks like in real bookings. And then secondly, we have destinations and where luxury is selling. So the spoiler, Europe is still king, but how advisors are selling it and what's starting to emerge alongside it, that's where the real story is. So third, we have cruise trends and product preferences. So cruise is having a moment in luxury, as we all know, and that data tells us exactly why. So we'll break down what's driving the bookings, which products are winning, and how cruise is competing with land-based travel. And fourth, clients, spend, and sales reality. So this is the honest conversation, what clients are actually spending, what's getting in the way of closing sales, and where your best leads are really coming from. So we'll take a short commercial break in the middle, and I'll leave plenty of time at the end for your questions. So let's get into it. Experience-driven luxury. So let's start with what I think is the biggest shift we're seeing in luxury travel right now. And that's not about the destination or the hotel brand. It's about what the trip means. So when we surveyed advisors, 53% said their clients are prioritizing distinctive once-in-a-lifetime experiences above everything else. Not the room category, not the star rating, the experience. So what type of luxury experience is driving demand? So here's what the data showed. Adventure and expedition at 40%, cultural immersion at 24%, culinary travel at 15%, private villas and yachts at 13%, and wellness is coming in last at 8%, but that's still a nice good chunk. So we're going to start asking some questions here and hearing from our panelists. Diana, so when you hear experience-led luxury, what does that actually look like in your bookings today?
It's like is that my clients will come to me and they'll say, I want to go to Europe, or I want to go to Paris, or I want to go to, well, let's talk about Europe because that is, as you point out, still a leading category. And they want their trip to be their trip, and that's the good news for travel advisors, because that's exactly where travel advisors shine, is creating something that's crafted to a particular person's interests. And of course, the more you can find out about your client in terms of what they're interested in, the better matchmaking you can do. But I think that all of them want to have something that really speaks to them and feel like it's not a cookie cutter experience. And so I would say that, probably 10 to 15 years ago, when I started going to conferences, or I noticed in the conferences that I was attending that people, in the industry were talking about experiences, and that being, more important, as you say, than necessarily the hotel or the destination. And so that's one of the things I started asking questions about. So for instance, if I had a mother who wanted to, or a grandmother wanted to take her 10-year-old granddaughter to Paris. And, I was asking my Paris tour partner what we could do. And he said, well, we could have, someone pretend to be Gustave Eiffel and meet them at the top of the Eiffel Tower and explain how the Eiffel Tower works, how it stays up, what it was introduced for. So even Paris, which has got to be one of the most, visited cities on the planet, you can still always, if you ask the right question, find something that someone hasn't even thought to think about before. And luckily,
Right.
humans are incredibly inventive, and my tour partners are always thinking of new things. So it's really up to me to say, tell me something new, because I'm always going to get a great answer.
Right. Asking the right question is a just very, very key for sure. So Melanie, tell us, what's a recent trip that you sold that truly fits this once in a lifetime category? So walk us through what made it that very, such a special trip.
hmm Um, I one of my recent trips is a uh, generational. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Um, there's a multi-generational Machu Picchu trip that I booked for my clients. We started in Lima with amazing dining. We went to Sacred Valley and then Machu Picchu, and then they took the Belmont train. So, this full luxury experience, but also getting to be immersed in amazing uh, part of the world.
Right. Very unique part of the world. Very
Yeah.
unique. Um, Christine, are clients leading with a specific experience first, or are you guiding them there? They already know what they want when they get in to see you?
So I think it's kind of 50-50. I have some clients that we're seeing that are coming with a destination and want a new experience in a more popular destination, similar to what Diana was talking about. You know, they want to go to Paris or London or Rome, but they don't want to do the same old things. And then we have people just coming to us looking for ideas because what we're seeing in this market is definitely people wanting to get off the beaten path. They've either done the top destinations or they're just not interested. They want something smaller, more culturally immersive, and especially with our younger luxury clients, Instagrammable, something that everybody else doesn't have on their social media.
Fantastic. So thank you. Let's move on to segment two. Destinations and where luxury is selling. Let's talk about where all of this experience-driven demand is actually going. And I'm sure the answer is not going to surprise you. We already said Europe. Europe at 70%. Asia is at 11%, the South Pacific at 7, Africa and South America each at 6. So the gap between Europe and everywhere else is enormous, as we saw by our answers there. There was a lot of Europe going on. So as far as cruise is concerned, we have the Mediterranean at 63%, followed by Alaska at 14. So when we look at what's coming next, though, the data is telling. Ultra private travel is at 37%. Long stay and remote lifestyle is at 33. So these aren't fringe interests. These are the emerging priorities of the luxury market. Melanie, so as we see Europe continues to dominate, what's keeping it at the top for your luxury clients?
I mean, I think it's the perfect combination of culture, food, beauty, history, and accessibility. There's everyone feels comfortable there, great hotel products, and something for everybody. And I think the infrastructure really supports luxury travel really well between trains, flights. There's plenty of drivers out there. Or even self-drive if they want to. But I think that just makes it a no-brainer.
Great. Diana, how are you responding when a client says, I want Europe, but I want something different?
Interestingly, what I see, having been in this business for a long time, is that countries have their moment. And pre-COVID, I was sending a ton of people to Iceland. Like Iceland was hot, you know? And in the last 2 or 3 years, I've sent so many people to Portugal. I've sent so many people to Spain. One of the things that I see with both of those places is that the value in Europe is considerably better there than it is, say, going to Italy or France or England, where labor costs are high and the hotels, just went crazy in pricing after COVID. So, what you would spend to hire a private driver in Italy or France is, probably 2 to 3 times what you'll pay in Portugal or Spain. And so if somebody's coming to me and they say, I want something that's, not same old, same old, I will first of all try to sort of say, have you considered, some of these other countries? And as an example, I got back from Portugal just 2 days ago, and I did a river cruise with a bunch of my college friends, which was really fun. But because we were in the Douro Valley and because I know Europe very well, of course, we did Lisbon for a few days beforehand, but I also said to them, have you thought about going up to Galicia, Spain? What's that? They're saying, what's that? And the question, the answer is, that's Santiago de Compostela, and that's, the Roman lighthouse at A Coruña, and this incredible wine region of the Sil Valley. These are places that I've been and was blown away by myself. And in fact, I had 13 people go up to Galicia and they loved it. I was getting daily reports going, oh my God, I had no idea. So that's my role, is to say, have you ever heard of this? Have you ever thought about that? And to be able to explain it from personal experience is key. That level of authenticity, the level of knowledge, so that they trust you, that you've been there. You're not sending them someplace that, you hope is good. It's like, no, this is good. And these are nice hotels.
Right. Well, I think we're going to segue kind of off of that what you were just talking about and ask Christine, which secondary or emerging destinations are you successfully introducing right now?
So for me, the biggest one has been Croatia for sure. Um, I actually also just got back from Croatia a couple weeks ago, and it's kind of on people's radar because a lot of them have been like on a 1 day cruise stop to Split or Dubrovnik, but there's so much to that country, and it's kind of what people envision Italy as being before it got overrun with tourists. And like Diana said, it's cost friendly in terms of you can get more luxurious experiences, drivers, hotels for less. And yet it is a super friendly country, gorgeous, heavy wine, olive oil culture like you think of, amazing food. And it's been a real winner for us lately for luxury clients looking for something else.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. Well, we are going to take a quick 1 minute break now. So everybody, please stay where you are. We have two more great segments ahead, including a deep dive into what's happening in the luxury cruise arena and the real talk about client spend and sales barriers. So sales barriers. So we'll be right back.
Travel advisors, this one's for you. It's Travel Advisor Appreciation Month, and Recommend is celebrating with something big. Complete all 3 courses in the Undiscovered Florida Travel Program, South, Central, and North. And you'll be automatically entered to win one of 4 incredible Florida getaways, including stays at Voco Sandpiper Resort, Paddletail Waterfront Lodge, Sandestin Golf and Beach Resort, and Margaritaville at Sea. The courses are free, fast, and packed with the insider knowledge your clients can't find anywhere else. Get certified, get inspired, and get yourself to Florida. Head to learn.recommend.com to start your journey today.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Let's keep on going. So this next one is going to be great for anyone selling or thinking about selling a luxury cruise. So let's take a look at cruise trends and product preferences because the luxury cruise market is a really interesting place right now. So when we asked advisors what's driving their clients to choose cruise, the number one answer was itinerary and destination access, not the ship, not the brand, the places it goes and the access it provides. Sound familiar? Experiences? So the full picture is unique itineraries at 42%, intimate ship size at 30, and all-inclusive pricing at 22%. So the onboard features that are influencing the bookings are shore excursions leading at 42%, again, the experience, spacious suites at 25%, and culinary programming at 21. So the through line is clear. Cruise wins when it delivers access, intimacy, and ease. The advisors who are positioning cruise well aren't selling a ship. They're selling the easiest way to deliver a high value, multi-destination luxury experience. So, Christine, let's start with you. What's the biggest reason your luxury clients are choosing cruise over land right now?
It's exactly the reason you said. It's comfort and ease. Land means whether it's guided or self-drive, you're moving hotels every day, every 2 days. You've got to pack, you've got to repack, you've got to get yourself from place to place. They would much rather, get to their lovely stateroom, unpack once, sail overnight, and wake up in a new place each day or, every couple of days. And they want that. My luxury clients want comfort and accessibility while still being able to experience the destinations, as you said, through shore excursions and cultural immersion experiences, but without the hassle. They're just looking for the ease of it.
Right. Diana, how are you positioning these smaller ships and more intimate cruise experiences?
Yeah, Christine is right on in what she said. The convenience factor is enormous. And, it's interesting, there's still a resistance with some people to the idea of a cruise. They think they saw the Carnival ad on television and they say, oh, that's not for me. And so, there's some resistance to still overcome, particularly with the high-end clients who have done everything custom all along and they love, their European vacations. And I do too, by the way, I do too. But I had a case history this past spring where I have a very very successful retired executive who wanted to go to the Galapagos on very short notice. And, I was able to find a cruise that fit this very narrow travel window that he had. And he'd never been on a cruise before. And of course, to go to the Galapagos, most of the time, you really should be on a boat. There are people who insist on doing it by land, but, they're going to really, again, my role is to explain to them, you're going to miss a lot if you don't have a boat that can take you, further afield. Well, he got back and he was just astounded. He said, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for suggesting this way of doing it. I had no idea I could. And I have a feeling he's going to go on another cruise. I've got other clients who started out traveling and doing custom trips in Europe and having done their first cruise and saying, we want to go to Italy. And, we sort of go over a lot of things. And in the end, they call back and they say, I want to take this cruise. I don't want to do all that moving around. So to exactly what Christine was saying, it's like the convenience factor is enormous. And the cruise lines that are doing it best, the ones who are really at the top of the market are including a lot of shore excursions, and they're making them interesting. And maybe, your consortium is offering a special event in one of the places that makes it that much easier to sell. So, there are cruise lines that do it better and really have a strong identity, and the easier they can make it for the client, the easier it is to sell.
Great. Melanie, what are you seeing more demand for, river, ocean, or expedition cruising? And what do you think is driving that demand?
Well, most of my business is not cruise, to be honest, but
Okay.
for my clients, I'm seeing a lot of ocean and some more in the expedition, like Antarctica, Galapagos. But you know, it's becoming more and more attractive to some of my clients. I think with the addition of like Amman, the Ritz, the Four Seasons, and Orient Express, these land-based names are coming to the ocean, and I think that's really attractive to a lot of my clients. It's the familiarity, also the size of the ship. So I think that's really interesting and something that I'm really excited to continue to watch.
And that's kind of like that helps convert your land-only luxury clients to cruising, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They
That
become much more
recognition.
comfortable with that transition.
Right, totally. So let's move on to client spend and sales reality. So this is the section that's all about the business of luxury travel, what clients are spending, who's spending it, and what's getting in the way of closing the sale, and where the best leads are coming from. So according to our survey, let's start with the spend. The most common luxury trip budget sits in the 20,000 to 50,000 K range. And that's 50,000, yes. So that's 35% of the respondents. Another 32% said 10,000 to 20,000, and 14%, a very good chunk there, said 50,000 to 100,000. So the appetite is real and the willingness to invest in travel is there. So who is it that's doing all the spending? Well, boomers, overwhelmingly, 60% of them are the luxury demand. They are 60% of the luxury demand. And then multi-gen travel is at 16 and Gen X is at 11. So the boomer demographic is the engine of this market, but multi-gen is fast growing to reach it. So um, this is where it gets really practical. Are your luxury leads coming from? According to our survey, referrals and word of mouth at 75%, and that's the lead source. Live events at 7%, and social media surprisingly only at 7%. But when we think that at the level of this kind of buy, that kind of makes sense that it's word of mouth. Diana, so what does the typical luxury client spend look like for you right now? And do you see that changing? Has it been changing?
Put a typical spend on it, because luxury and affordability are quite different. You can have a luxury client that spends, let's say on a nice Silver Sea cruise, that maybe spends 15 to 20,000. You can have a super high-end client who will do 80,000, as I have a client just actually about to go to the Galapagos tomorrow. Multi-generation. And when you say multi-generation, that overlaps with the baby boomer, because that is a lot of that market. Is you've got grandma and grandpa who are in their late 60s or 70s and still able to travel. And one of the things that happened during COVID when people couldn't travel was people kind of saying, gee, I'm healthy now. What if something else comes along? We better do it now. And so the multi-generational piece, as I said, does dovetail nicely with baby boomers. Multi-generation, I think, it often is 3 generations, more so than 2, which I would call sort of family travel. And so I see a broad range of spend. I really do. I see people, as I said, spending 80,000 for 4 people for 11 days, and I see other people spending 15 to 20. They're all they're all affluent people, but they're
Right.
affluent at different levels.
Right. Melanie, so this price perception that we're talking about is kind of the top barrier. How are you overcoming that in conversations with your clients?
I have a lot of my clients fill out like a form when they first are interested in a trip, and it, it they're never really clear of how much things cost. And so I think it's really important, and part of my job is to help educate them. They don't realize how much things are these days unless they're traveling a lot too. I think they're more used to it. But if they're doing one big trip a year or whatnot, or they're starting to travel, or they want to do a really nice trip, they see it on Instagram, but they don't really know how much that actually costs, right? So I think that's part of my job. And, I walk them through all those different components, whether it's, starting hotels, private guides, transfers, all of those things. And I help them prioritize what matters most to them. Usually, first come to me, their budget is lower than what we end up spending. Reality sets in. It's like going to the grocery store. It's like, how did I spend that?
That's,
Um,
yeah, I think we're all feeling that right now.
Right.
Uh, yeah. So Christine, so speaking of things that are affecting travel, how are geopolitical concerns showing up in your clients' decision making lately?
So, I mean, obviously, it is top of mind for a lot of travelers, especially, depending on where they're hoping to travel. For instance, clients going to Egypt have more concern about it than, say, clients going to London. But overall, we haven't seen a huge effect on travel as a whole at this point in our agency. And, people bring it up, and then it's my job to give them the facts. I'm never going to tell somebody something is safe or you should absolutely go here, but to give you the facts, give you experience from my own life, from my agents, from recent clients, and then let them make the decisions that they're comfortable with. But overall, we haven't seen a huge shift other than probably having more conversations about it than ever before.
So I want to hang out in this segment just a little bit longer. So we mentioned that referrals dominate luxury bookings. Diane, I want to ask you, what are you doing to consistently generate these referrals?
It kind of does it itself, frankly. I mean, I started on business a long time ago, and I probably made every mistake in the business you could make. But what I discovered was that referrals were much more effective than, say, any advertising I could do. The referrals, when somebody calls me, generally they already know that I have a fee, and they are. They want to work with me because their friend Sally worked with me, and Sally went to Italy and had a great trip. So that, just as I said, is a snowball that gets more and more, gets bigger and bigger as time goes on, assuming that you're doing a good job in what you do. So I don't worry about that too much. I'm pretty busy these days, and it's all referrals, and it's really nice because in the luxury market, again, that's what you want. You want somebody who's got the means to travel nicely, to talk to their friend and do the same thing. And just to going back to someone said the other a few minutes ago about the budget, when somebody calls me and they're new the first time and they say, how much does it cost to go to Italy? That's an impossible question to answer, but it's also kind of a red flag to me that if budget is their most important thing, they're probably not going to have the kind of vacation that I want to plan for them. And I don't require that people have a movie star budget at all, but they have to be able to spend enough to stay in a nice hotel that I know personally, that's not an Airbnb. I don't do Airbnb or that stuff at all. So it's you want to be able to qualify your clients at the same time. It's not only a question of the referrals coming into you, it's you deciding, is this person a good candidate for my business. You cannot be all things to all people. You know, what the top of the market is where you can make money these days. And so that's where you want to be. So you want to be looking for those red flags, as I said, for somebody saying, what does it cost? As the first question is probably an indication they're not going to be willing to come up, you know, as you were saying, Melanie, to, you know, what it's really going to cost to do this.
Mhm.
Yeah. I see you were nodding in agreement, Melanie. Do you have anything to add to that about the referrals?
Um, I 100% agree that referrals are the best way to get business. And the way to do that is to remain a consistent, honest, responsive agent and answer those tough questions and be there for your clients when they need you. So again, I agree with Diana is I don't do a ton of marketing. It's mostly word of mouth. Um, and those are the clients I want.
So one more question. So are clients booking farther ahead again? Or are you still seeing hesitation, Christine? We talked a little bit about that earlier.
For me, I'm definitely seeing clients booking closer in. I have more, you know, last minute, and by last minute, I would say I would mean within a 60-day travel window than I've ever had before. I still have some people who are booking way far out. I mean, I have bookings into 28 and 29, of course, but I've definitely seen an uptick in people who are booking closer in. And I do think it's what I was talking about earlier, some of the geopolitical uncertainty, the economic uncertainty. I think as things happen, people get a little rattled and they're waiting a little bit to see if things are going to even out, or you know how it's really going to affect them and their lives and their budgets. um, we're not seeing a dip in bookings at all. We're pacing ahead of where we were last year, but we are definitely seeing more people booking on shorter notice.
Great. Well, that's something to keep in mind for sure. So we still have a good chunk of time left, but before we wrap up or we continue, I want to make sure that you guys know about our next webinar that's coming up. So this one is going to be really good for anyone who wants to turn their social media into a real business driver. So our next session is social media strategies for client engagement. And write this down on your calendars. It's on Thursday, July 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern, and it's completely free to attend like all our webinars. So we're going to cover how to build authentic engagement that drives real results. How to use video and reels and trending content to boost your visibility, and how to create posting strategy that actually converts followers into clients, and how to use your analytics to understand what's really resonating with your audience. So if you have your phone handy, go ahead and scan that QR code on the screen right now and register. It only takes 10 to 15 seconds. And if you can't make it live, register anyway, and we'll send you the recording. So trust me, you don't want to miss this one. Well, I'd say you don't want to miss any of them, but that's just me. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A. We are going to go ahead and do a quick recap, and then we have a few more questions to ask our panelists. Let's see. So before we get into the next questions, we are going to bring it all together. Let's see. One is experience. Let's see. Let's bring this all together. Right. Number one is, as we talked about at the beginning, experience is driving the luxury demand. More than half of advisors say clients are leading with the experience. Adventure, cultural immersion, culinary, the trip has to mean something. So build around the wow moment first. The number two, Europe remains the anchor, but freshness wins. 7 out of 10 advisors name Europe as their top region, but the opportunity is in selling familiar destinations in completely new ways. That's fresh angles, deeper access, and that's what converts. So number three, we have the cruise. It's competing and winning on access and ease. Itinerary access is the number one driver. Intimate ships, all-inclusive value, and multi-destination ease are making luxury cruise one of the strongest products in the market right now. Number four, value still matters at the top end. So clients are spending 20 to 50,000 is the sweet spot, but price perception is still the top barrier. The advisors who are closing are the ones who sell value clearly, break down the inclusions, articulate the exclusivity, and personalize every detail. And number five, Referrals dominate luxury bookings. 75% of qualified luxury leads come from word of mouth. Your referral strategy isn't optional, it's your growth strategy. So, this is my favorite part. Let me take a quick look here at the chat section and see if we have questions here. Everybody, if you have a question, drop it in below, because if not, I still have questions to ask. Let's see here. Thank you, Neil. Okay, well, let's take a little bit, let's mix it up a little bit here and look at some of the questions that we have for our panelists here. So when talking about the type of luxury experience that's driving demand, Diana, are clients open to being redirected, or are they still very destination fixed?
There are 100 answers to that because, people are so variable themselves. So it's really a question of knowing who your client actually is. I had a client a number of years ago, they did a cruise in the Mediterranean that ended in Athens. And so I naively assumed they would want to go and have a tour of the Parthenon, the Acropolis. And I suggested it and I priced that along with the transfer. And long story short, because they really never got back to me, eventually the wife said, "Why do I want to go and look at some old thing?" They didn't want to go to the Acropolis. They didn't care. She didn't care about going to the Parthenon. Okay, I know her now. I know that she's not going to take a trip that dwells on old things. So, is she open to new ideas? Yes and no within her mindset. So again, that's all part of like, who are the people that you're working with? And everybody is different about this, but ideally, once somebody has worked with me, they trust me and they know that I know what I'm talking about. And then I have the credibility to say, as I did to those people going up to Galicia, hey, that's a fabulous part of Spain and it's way off the beaten track and you will love it. And they'll say, yeah, okay, you did right for us in Prague, suggesting that. So whatever. And so I've had clients who came in and sort of really put me through my paces, were difficult to, work with. And I just was like, oh God, I hope this is going to be okay. And afterwards it's like, whatever you say, Diana. It's like, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody's different. Everyone's different.
Well, you built that trust, so there's a lot to that.
Well, I will just say about that having a travel advisor is a lot like finding a doctor. You ask your friends, it's all about trust. It is all about trust.
Oh, Melanie, I'll ask you this question. What's one destination that you think advisors should be selling more aggressively right now?
Goodness. Switzerland in the summer. I think it has kind of a little bit of everything. It has that outdoor adventure, it has great food, it has great properties, and it, kind of just incorporates it all.
Christine, what would your answer be to that? What's one destination you think we should be selling more aggressively?
See, and I don't think we should be selling any destination particularly aggressively. It goes back to what Diana was saying. Every client is going to be a fit for a different destination, a different experience. So I know, because I also get most of my business through referrals and word of mouth, but I do also market, and my marketing is focused on building trust and also just sort of putting the experiences out there so that the people who are interested, is a good fit for, come to me. So, I don't believe in selling one destination because it's hot or because we think it's, the next big thing. Every client gets matched to the experience and the destination that's right for them.
Right. And aggressive selling can also lead to that over tourism that we're seeing, right?
That's
That,
absolutely true.
it just ends up ruining a perfectly good destination. So quick question, Diane. So how are you balancing authenticity with the level of comfort and luxury that clients expect?
Very easy to do in Europe. It really is. There are some million things to do in Europe. So the hotels there are well used to, demanding clients from around the world. And so that's an easy part. And then it's really a question, when I was writing my book, Strolling with Your Elephant, it was really about trying to find things in Europe that are unusual and authentic. And, you can do everything from something that's free, like watching the reenactment of Caesar's assassination in Rome on March 15th every year. That's free. The Historical Society does that there. Or watching the historic regatta in Venice in September when they float the Doge's boats down the canal, with their 12-man teams in, oaring in Renaissance costumes. Or you can spend a lot of money. You can hire a private car in Germany for a day to go around with 11 of your most intimate friends, on the railways of Germany, wherever you go, with a Michelin chef if you want to. So again, it goes back to asking the right question of your local tour partner. Tell me something I don't know. And if they say to me, "Oh, we've got this nice cooking class," I'll say, "No, I'm way beyond the cooking class. No, tell me something I don't know about." And that's again where you just get great great answers. There's no shortage of creativity among humans for something new and interesting to do, even in the most well-visited cities.
This is true. Melanie, where are you seeing the strongest demand right now for your luxury clients? Adventure, cultural, culinary, or wellness? And why do you think that is?
I really don't think it's one particular bucket. It's kind of like it all. They want to be able to go for a hike one day and then come back and have an amazing massage and then have a Michelin star dinner. So, you know, it's all of them.
And Christine, where are you seeing are you seeing any particular focus, more focus on a topic more than another, more wellness or more culinary, more adventure?
For me, I definitely see a stronger focus on cultural and historical. That is the number one thing for probably 80% of my clients, with a second of adventure. And kind of what Melanie said too, a lot of my cultural and historical clients will want some soft adventure along the way. But that is definitely the biggest chunk for me.
So Diana, do you get a lot of cruise? You get quite a few of those luxury cruises, right? Cruise destinations?
Definitely, yeah. And again, it goes back to, just how luxurious you want it to be. There are a lot of new entrants into the top luxury market, cruise market right now. And it'll be very interesting to see how they try to carve out some of that space that those other companies have already claimed for themselves. That means taking market share away from some very well-established players. I don't really know how that's going to go, but they're starting in there. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, like, how would you convert a land-only luxury client into a cruise booking?
The easiest way is with a destination that lends itself to cruising. And as I mentioned earlier, my Galapagos guy, that was just a great, easy sale because he wanted to go there, and all it took was me to explain to him what he was going to lose by just sticking to land versus what the cruise would allow him. There are other destinations where the cruise is really the most effective way to do it. Alaska is a great case too, and many people will take a first cruise to Alaska, and there are no roads to get to the inside passage. You would either have to be in a bush, with a bush pilot, going from town to town, or you have to go by boat because you cannot go by road. All right, so if you're going by boat and you don't want to be on a cruise, that means you're using what they call the marine highway, which is just the local ferry, and you're schlepping your own bags on and off. Well, when you start to explain all that to someone about, the cruise solves all that problem for you. It solves all of that. That's not that hard to do. The most people who've gone to Alaska are thinking of the towns in the Inside Passage: Skagway, Sitka, Ketchikan, Juneau. So if you're not going to go by water, I don't know how you're going to do it very easily. You're letting yourself in for a lot of schlepping. And again, once you've done a really nice cruise in Alaska or the Galapagos, then you're already open to, oh, this was pretty comfortable. The unpack only once, as Christine said, all of that. It's a big problem solver for a lot of people.
So Christine, speaking about the cruise, so what do you think matters more for your clients, the itinerary, the inclusions, or the onboard experience?
So I would say, I mean, I think itinerary is probably first, but not by a lot. They are equally concerned with the onboard experience as well. Because as we've been discussing this whole time, what they're looking for is ease and comfort and a certain level of service and food and just personalization. So, I could have the greatest itinerary in the world, but if it's on the wrong cruise line, I'm not putting my luxury clients on Carnival. I can't imagine there would be the greatest itinerary, but let's just say there was. It's still
Yeah.
not going to be a good fit for them. I think it's a balance to make sure that they're getting the full experience that they're looking for.
So Melanie, I did ask this question before to somebody else, but do you feel that your clients are open to being redirected to new destinations, or are they very much fixed in what they want or what they're looking for?
I think it really depends on the client. I have some people that come and say, we want to go to Italy, and they don't know where in Italy, or it depends on the time of year, they just want to go. Then I have some that have come to me and say, I want a great family vacation. So that opens up a lot bigger doors. And so that's when we really start brainstorming and talking about, what their interests are. If they have kids, what do they like to do? So it really depends. I think some are open, um, and some aren't. And the window is bigger or smaller depending on the client.
Diane, are you seeing more demand for river, ocean, or expedition cruising? And what do you think is driving that demand?
Think that river cruising is just growing by leaps and bounds. And I happen to love it myself. And I've never had anybody in all my years of sending people on river cruises who didn't come back and love it and want to do another one. So if you're selling it for the first time, you're undoubtedly going to get a repeat client in a couple of years, doing a different river. And now, of course, the river cruises are including Colombia, and of course, there's the Nile. Interestingly, again, one of the things that my role as an advisor to do is to explain, by the way, if you're doing a river cruise in Vietnam, it's really not Vietnam other than Saigon and Hanoi. It's mostly Laos and Cambodia. And if what you want is Vietnam, that should be a land journey. And I've had that conversation with a number of people, and they need to understand that. So again, as an advisor, you need to know what it is that you're going to do. Like there are some river cruises in and around Venice that are, sold as a river cruise in Italy, but it's really on a boat for 3 days, and then they put you on a bus down to Florence. Well, that's a big surprise to somebody who thinks they're getting a river cruise. So, river cruises to me, the Danube is glorious. The Rhine is lovely. The one I just did on the Douro River was great. So people want to do that again. And also a lot of times, again, going back to the comment earlier about the threshold, the barrier to get people over who've never been on a cruise. The river cruise is an easier place to start because the boats are so much smaller. If the smallest, ocean going vessel, aside from Sea Dream, is say 350 to 500 people, well, a river cruise Douro is 98 people, or even on the Rhine or the Danube, it may be 120. So that's a whole lot easier for people to accept as like, I'm going on a cruise. I hope it's okay. And then once they've done that, you get probably a second river or third or fourth, fifth river cruise out of it, but also you've broken through this concept of what is a cruise, and you've already shown the convenience of the transportation piece just goes away. The unpacking only once, all of those convenience features they've experienced, and then it's much easier at that point to say, if you'd like to do Alaska, or you'd like to go up to Norway and see the fjords, that's a bigger boat, but you'll still have a lot of these conveniences. So it's sort of testing the water a little bit with a smaller boat.
Right. Well, we got a question from our viewers here. This is a question from I believe it's Veronica. Um, X, it says, can you please share if you have a preferred cruise line you tend to use most often? And can you please share what, if any, insurance plans do you offer for your cruise or international travelers? Do you want to get that one, Christine?
Sure. Again, it's going to be sort of a non-answer answer. Obviously, there are the standard luxury cruise lines, and I can't say I have the one that's preferred because it's going to depend on the client. what exactly they're looking for, what level of service they're looking for, as compared to, I apologize, I thought I had turned my phone off.
I thought it was mine.
No, it was me, sorry. So yeah, so it really depends on what the client is looking for, which cruise line I'm going to pair them with. Now, the insurance question is much easier. I recommend insurance for every single traveler, international cruise or otherwise. My agency tends to prefer Chubb or Allianz over vendor insurance. I tend to think that third-party insurance has better coverage at the same or lower rates. But again, I know other agencies love Travel Insured or one of the other insurance companies, but there isn't a traveler, domestic or international, that I don't offer insurance to.
Yeah. Melanie, what's your take on travel insurance? And do you have a preferred provider?
Well, I 100% offer it to every single client. And we use, or I use pay insurance a lot. It's been great for us. But I think also with all the political geo, environment that's going on right now, I think it's even more important. I think one, it gives the clients peace of mind, but two, it's me peace of mind if something does happen and change. So I think it is really, and I think clients are seeing the value a little bit more. Maybe if they're apprehensive about doing insurance prior, now they're seeing like, okay, maybe I really need this. So yeah.
Diana, I'm going to ask the same question of you regarding insurance because it is a very important topic for travelers nowadays.
I think it's an essential topic. You're right. It's important. It's essential. And one of the things that came out of COVID was that ASTA, our trade association, put together with their lawyers. I didn't have to hire a lawyer. A nice little waiver that I simply downloaded from their website and I send it to every single client that I have. And I have a checklist of all of my ongoing projects, right? And it's like, has this been done? Has this been done? Has this been done? And the last line is always insurance, whether it's been quoted or declined. And so again, this was an outgrowth of COVID when, people lost money and, there were some bad outcomes there. And so the waiver has a wonderful way of focusing clients' minds on what's at stake. And so, you want to absolutely always have offered it. If they don't take it, that's fine. But they have to tell you that they acknowledge you've offered it and that they're declining it. And then I keep that, this is a form that goes out through my Travefy, itinerary function, and it comes back to me and it gets stored so that there's no question that if you didn't want it and you're going to lose $16,000, as some people, well, two of my clients did last year when their last minute trip to Sicily was their trip to Sicily was canceled at the last minute. Okay, you want them to say, I know you offered me insurance and I didn't take it. Right. Okay, that's fine. It's your call. It's your call.
Right.
But I've offered it and you don't want it. Fine, just put it on paper.
Yeah, make sure you get that signature and so
But
it takes
again,
that off of
that was an ASTA form. Like, go onto the ASTA website, download it. It's easy. Couldn't be easier. And again, their lawyers wrote it. I didn't have to hire somebody to write it. Their lawyers did.
Always a win. We
Yep.
have another question from our listeners here. I believe it is Angela. And I'm going to ask Christine to answer this. Well, actually, I'm going to ask all of you to answer this one. If you charge a fee for doing a trip, how do you figure out what to charge, Christine?
Honestly, my fees vary depending upon the complexity of the trip. So there are times that I don't charge a fee if it's something very easy, for instance, like a river cruise that is not going to take a lot of my time or focus. If it is a complex FIT where, I've got one set of clients that are traveling for 6 weeks coming this summer, starting in Iceland, going all the way through to France, and then a transatlantic cruise back home with a lot of moving parts in between. So for that's going to be a much higher fee. But I don't have sort of a set schedule. I kind of base it on what I think my hourly input is going to be into this, and how much of the trip will either not be compensated or would be a low compensation, like just hotel rooms.
Gotcha. Melanie, how do you figure out your charges if you do charge?
I do charge a fee. Um, so I do not charge for hotel only bookings or cruise booking. What I do charge for is when I do a full service planning. Um, and so I kind of offer those two services to my clients. The way that I do it, and I've broken it down per day of travel. So if the whole itinerary is 7 days, then I'm going to charge them for 7 days. I'm not going to charge them for when they're flying in the air. I try not to like nickel and dime. My clients feel like they're nickel and diming it, but I like to break it up per day because I feel like psychologically you're not like it seems a lot smaller. And when you break it into like a per day per diem kind of situation, it's a little bit more digestible. And then you're like, oh, well, that's not that bad. I would rather pay someone else to do this. So that's sort of how I do it. And then if it's a larger group, I'll increase the pricing for how many people and obviously the complexity of that.
Okay, Diana, what's your take on fees?
Essential, even for river cruises or tours, because if that person cancels and you don't get anything, you've spent all this time and money and you have nothing to show for it. So everybody except for my top 3 clients pays me a fee, which is several $100s. It's a flat. I don't vary it, depending on what they're doing. It's like, no, everybody's paying me enough so that, as I said, if it's a last minute cancellation, then, or they change their mind, not even at the last minute, but I've put in all this time and effort that I need to feel like, yes, I'm getting something out of it. So everybody pays a fee except that, as I said, as the owner of my agency, I can decide this person's taking it, traveling with me 3 or 4 times a year and it's high end. You don't have to pay a fee. But by and large, no, I think fees are essential. And frankly, Lydia, you guys should do a program just on charging fees because this topic comes up all the time. And I feel strongly that we should all charge fees.
Well, I am writing down that suggestion right now because that's true. I mean, I think that can be a really touchy subject, I believe. But I mean, you guys put a lot of time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into some of these itineraries, and if you don't charge, some people might go, oh, well, I'll just go look it up online, right? And that would be a no. But anyway, we could honestly keep going all day on this, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So I want to close this out properly. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists genuinely for your time and your expertise. I really do appreciate it. I know everybody's super busy and from the heart, we appreciate your time. I want to thank everybody who tuned into our webinar today also for your time. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for your questions. And thank you for investing in your own growth as luxury travel professionals. So thank you all so much. Take care of yourselves. Go build something great with your clients, and we'll see you at the next one. Take care, everybody. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.